back when D-Day occurred. And on Sunday, the next day, my mother's 4 brothers all went down to the recruiting station and joined the military. Every one of them volunteered. And my uncle, they called him Ambrose, Bozey, they called him Bozey. My Uncle Bozey was a hell of an athlete, they tell me, when he was a kid. And he became an Army Air Corps before the Air Force came along. He flew those single-engine planes as reconnaissance over war zones. And he got shot down in New Guinea. And they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea. And then my son volunteered to go to Iraq for a year, and he came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. And they gave, like many of you, risked your lives, and you know people who gave their lives to the country. They're heroes. But one of the things that as I was doing that today, I was reminded of what my opponent said in Paris not too long ago. They asked him to go visit American grave sites. He said no, he wouldn't do it because they were all suckers and losers. I'm not making that up. Staff who was with him acknowledged it today. Suckers and losers. That man doesn't deserve to have been the commander-in-chief for my son.
A squadron of American fighters comes flying up over the island, and the Japanese take to their guns and they shoot down as many as they can. A handful come flying into the island, doing their best to make it here before their plane crashes, make it to land, become prisoners of war. And it's the wrong decision. It's the wrong decision because the man in charge of the military here, Yoshio Tachibana, he's not taking prisoners. He's a sadist. What's worse, he's a cannibal. He eats the pilots who crash here. He tortures and murders the rest. But that's not the story I'm trying to tell. The story I'm trying to tell is the story of one pilot who decided that instead of coming into land, he was going to risk the ocean. So instead of flying his plane in, he ejects immediately, crashing into the water, ripping open his head on the tail of his plane as he tries to eject, landing in a life raft that has no supplies, knowing the Japanese are coming, seeing him crash into the water already in their fighters and boats going out to reach him. But the Americans know he's there too. And his hope, his last hope, is that the Americans somehow make it to him through this mine-fielded ocean. They send a boat to come and get him. And somehow they succeed. And that soldier is pulled back aboard. And that's the story I want to tell, because that's the story of serendipity. That soldier's decision, that pilot's decision to go that way rather than this way. That tiny decision to brave the ocean rather than the land, it fundamentally alters world history. For better or worse, your life is changed, my life is changed, all of our lives are changed by that tiny decision of that way. Because if that 20-year-old pilot had not decided to try to get back to his ship, we would not have the same 41st President of the United States. Because that pilot's name is George Herbert Walker Bush. That's serendipity.
Ambrose Finnegan, they called him Uncle Bozey, he was shot down. He was an Army Air Corps before there was an Air Force. He flew single-engine planes, reconnaissance flights over New Guinea. He had volunteered because someone couldn't make it. He got shot down in an area where there were a lot of cannibals in New Guinea at the time. They never recovered his body, but the government went back when I went down there and they checked and found parts of the plane and the like. And what I was thinking about when I was standing there was when Trump refused to go up to the memorial for said they're a bunch of suckers and losers.